Greetings, car family. You found yourself back on the Peak Auto YouTube channel, here for another episode of State of the Build. I am your host, Emily Reeves, and I absolutely adore producing this series. I get to talk to my friends about cool car stuff. Today, we are going to get kind of a shop tour, car part show and tell from our friend Charles at Humble Mechanic. He is such an awesome dude. He and I met years ago, and I just love watching his stuff. If you're a VW fan, you know Charles. He is a wizard with all of that stuff. So I'm really excited to get a tour of his shop and insight into projects that he's got going on. Let's shoot him a text. Charles, what's up, dude? Thank you so much for taking the time to toss some videos back and forth with me. Everyone is excited to see this episode, I'm sure, because we've had lots of folks suggest to have you on this series. So I was just telling them we're going to get kind of a shop tour, show and tell of cool car parts that you've got laying around and projects you're working on. So I'm pretty stoked to, I guess, start off with the cars that you have on the ground right now and give us a little once-over tour of the items that you have on four wheels. Then we can look at car parts.
What's up, Emily? What is up, everybody? Appreciate you having me on. Super pumped to show you guys some of the things that I have going on. I like to say this is the place where project cars get started and never get finished. But if you say you finished a project car, you're lying. You only sold your project car. It's never actually done. We are going to start with my 2010 Audi S4 that, if you look close, is kind of in monster truck mode. So this car has an Audi Q5 suspension, which is same platform vehicle, but the SUV version, which gave it about a 1.25-inch lift. It's a 3-liter supercharged engine with a dual pulley setup and a tune which is rated for just shy of 500 horsepower at the crank. It is a quattro all-wheel drive Audi, and it has a torque vectoring rear diff. I bought this car for $1,500 because the clutch pack in the DSG direct shift gearbox was toast. And so bought a parts transmission, swapped the clutches over, and it ran 13.25 miles, fast enough to beat a turbo Civic, but now it's sad again. Then installed this ridiculous spoiler here, which I know it looks silly, but I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely love it. Then we did the Audi Q5 suspension on it, and that is because this car is going to end up being a rallycross car. I found some springs that'll give me another inch of suspension lift, so we should have pretty good ground clearance for rallycross. I've rallycrossed it once, and this is the result. All this dirt. I guess I could clean it, but I don't think I'm ever going to. The dirt kind of adds character. The back end is somewhat stripped out. We shaved probably 300 pounds of just seats and door panels and stuff out of it. My plan is actually going to be getting wrapped, and I'm on the hunt for an S4 with a manual transmission so I could swap a bunch of parts. Pretty cool car, pretty fast car. Actually was an amazing car when it was new. Kind of sad that it got let go in the condition that it's in now, but works out for me. Next up, which has actually just become the parts shelf rather than a car, is a 2004 Volkswagen R32. So this car is a 6-speed manual V6 all-wheel drive Golf. And as you can see, it has no engine. It has no transmission. It has no drivetrain of any kind. And we don't have an interior in it either. Well, some of the parts are there. Also, my daughter, the comedian, liked to write clean me on it because, as you can see, it's also pretty dirty. So powertrain's out, interior's out mostly, and the reason for that is the car has some rust that needs to be addressed. This I broke 2 of my very strict car rules with this car. Not buying a black car, not buying a car with rust. And yeah, so that's got to all get replaced. This car is going to be getting a full, pretty much top to bottom rehab, restoration, whatever you want to call it. And when we're done with it, it should land right about 500 wheel horsepower. Here's the majority of the interior right over here. This is another VR6 that's going in another car, undetermined yet at this point. But I actually have another one of these Volkswagen R32s. It's a blue one that's not in this kind of condition. It's in darn near perfect condition, actually. And we're going to do some part swaps because this one actually had a really nice interior when I got it. Came from the Rust Belt. Interior's nice, exterior, not quite so much.
I love that S4, and turning it into a rally car is going to be so cool. You know, we've got that little A3 hatchback, and it's got the Stage 2 tune on it, and it is so fun to drive with the little turbo. It's so zippy and torquey. I love that little car, so I can imagine having an all-wheel drive one that you can off-road, like rally style. That'd be so rad. That's going to be really cool to see that build unfold. And the R32 is adorable as well, even though it's a shell. Your daughter, the comedian, cracks me up as well. So let's move on to the shop tour speed part tidbit action of this episode. Show us what kind of cool parts you have laying around that are going to go on your various builds. I know a lot of us get stoked to see various car parts, so I'm excited to see what you got laying around.
You know, it's funny that you say that because cute and adorable are exactly the vibe I'm going for with both of these two cars. But moving on to cool car parts that I have floating around. So I spent the last year doing nothing but seemingly taking things apart. I got an engine block right here, another engine right here. This is a 4-cylinder out of a 2-liter turbo Jetta that we blew up with a 100 shot of nitrous. So stock block, stock car basically does not like 100 shot of nitrous. Also, when you have a turbo car, the effective jetting of nitrous is more like 150%. So it was closer to 150 shot of nitrous. And in fact, it came apart on the dyno at 140 pound-feet of torque over what it did without nitrous. So fun fact of the day, this one's getting rebuilt, forged rods, and I actually have a bunch of new nitrous stuff. So we're gonna be running a progressive nitrous controller and a bunch of other safety measures instead of just puking a whole bunch of nitrous into an engine. The other thing, this has kind of become my pride and joy engine build, is this VR6 right here. So this engine is actually from this car right here. And I already had this on here, so this is not a magical reveal, but it kind of is. Whoosh. Ta-da, cue the music. Emily, cue the music. So this is a 3.2-liter VR6. A VR6 is a 6-cylinder in a V, but the V, instead of being something like 60 degrees, is 15 degrees on this one. That other VR that I showed you over there earlier is actually a 10.6 degree V. So it's unfortunate that the head's not off because it looks really, really cool. So mostly stock internals, even though we are turbocharging this car, and a little bit of headwork. I think upgraded valves and valve springs, if I remember right. It's been a while. Upgraded clutch, and we're doing some stuff to be able to provide oiling for the turbocharger, things like that. So very cool engine. All the purple here is powder coated. We'll keep the car black with just some light purple accents on the engine, which I'm really, really excited about. Like, I'm way more excited about this engine than I probably should be. Now, on the other side of the shop is pretty much the rest of the parts that'll be going in the R32 for supporting the big turbo build. These are actually rear control arms. This is the manifold that's going to be going on the car. It is an air-to-water intercooled turbo system, various odds and ends and wires and pumps and fuel-y stuff and all kinds of crazy things. This is a coolant tank for the coolant, for the say cool again, Charles, of the turbocharger. This is for the rear suspension, various assorted other bits, boost gauge. There's a lot of axle boots and bushings and things like that. Here is kind of the leftover parts of what came out of the car, stock manifold, a lot of the stock stuff of the R32. These are actually the stock pulleys for the S4. So a lot of this stuff's not going to go back in, and what does, like the wiring harness here, this will all get rehabbed and look pretty.
I like the purple. That's pretty snazzy. It's really funny to hear about the carnage from nitrous. I've never experienced or used nitrous on any of my Go Fast stuff, but I do understand that it can have quite the repercussions if you don't have the supporting mods. That's pretty funny. So I'm intrigued by the V6s with various degrees in the cylinder walls, I guess, the angle that the cylinders are inside the block. I'm curious about that. I don't know if you can give me a quick like synopsis of understanding that, but I'm curious. There's so much I don't know about engines, and when you were talking about the various degrees in the engines, I'm like, what are the benefits of changing the degree of a V6? Do you want to give me a rundown on that?
Yeah, of course. Let me give you the quick elevator pitch on the VR6 engine. Since I don't have one apart, let me kind of draw it out and show you what the heck this even is. So you have a 4-cylinder, an inline 4-cylinder, looks like that, with a footprint of roughly there. Then you have, let's say, a V6. We'll call that a 60-degree V with a footprint like that. Then you have the VR6, which is positioned kind of like this. So you get a 6-cylinder engine in basically the footprint of a 4-cylinder engine. It's just a little bit wider. And this V right here would be 15 or even narrower. This is not to scale at 10.6 versus something at, say, 60 degrees.
Ah, that is so interesting. Okay, so I've never seen one of those engines where the cylinders are sort of like snuggled up together. Snuggled up. Do you like that technical word? Oh gosh, that's really, really cool. I love that. I would love to see one of those engines. Thank you for giving me that rundown. I loved that. Are we moving on to more fun car parts?
Oh yeah, we are definitely moving on to more fun car parts. So this is actually a series of a bunch of different parts that are going to end up going back in the R32 that either need to be cleaned up and rehabbed or honestly just kind of recycled. So you're looking at pieces of 3 different rear differentials for the R32, which like I mentioned is all-wheel drive. So rear diff, this is actually the Haldex unit which controls the all-wheel drive system. It's kind of like fake all-wheel drive. Like it's all-wheel drive when you need it to be, but 2-wheel drive when you don't. And this will get modified a little bit, but not all that much. I do have a limited slip differential, and you were talking about cute car parts earlier. This one definitely qualifies as a cute little car part. There's what the factory diff looks like. So this one is probably the one that'll get in the car with this limited slip differential in it. And I got another one that's all torn apart that I was going to use, but somebody gave me this. I stumbled into it for free, so I feel like I have to use this one. Now on the other side of the workbench, I have the cylinder head that is actually for that 4-cylinder over there. It needs to be reassembled and then bolted up. Some tools hung up on the back wall. On that VR6 that I showed you, we're also going to be doing some beauty washers to kind of fancy it up a little bit. You know, spend a bunch of time and energy on things that you'll never see ever again, like bolts for the fuel rail. And then this is a little bit more on our nitrous stuff that's going on that engine over there. We have the gauges and a wideband O2, progressive controller, and the thing that all nitrous systems need. Yes, it's functional, but also there's like a cool factor, a nitrous purge, so all your competition knows that you got nitrous.
You really want to jinx yourself and say that you're never going to see those fuel rail bolts again in your fancy little washers? Okay. And then we go on to the nitrous purge. Just saying, I try not to jinx myself and be like, I'm never going to see these rod bolts again. Hey, look, it's a little VW engine. Okay, what else are you showing me? This is awesome.
Okay, so first of all, Emily, if I made good life choices, I would not have a shop full of broken European cars. So clearly, good choices are completely off the table. And finally, to round out the collection, this is another R32 2004. Same car as the black one, just in deep blue pearl instead of black magic pearl. And my 2019 Golf R, this car right here is one of 13 in the US in this color, Ginster yellow. It's part of a special order package that you could do in 2019 with Volkswagens. Then we have Mama's 3-liter diesel Touareg. And finally, the next down the road project, this is going to be my wife's some year, 98, that's it, 98 purple Tacoma that's loaded down with a bunch of, well, engine parts. I don't even know what to say about this. What could be said about this? I just don't know.
Aren't Miatas so fun? Dude, $10 for the car. That's awesome. We got this little precious little MG midget and fresh car parts on the ground for her. And it's very fun to drive. It's so awesome to jump in those little cars that just zip around and handle amazing. Oh my gosh, I love them. Dude, what an awesome rundown. I love the Tacoma too, by the way. That truck's gonna be really cool, and it's full of car parts, which is hilarious. Oh my gosh, you've got so much going on. You're right, like logical life choices. Those just don't go hand in hand with having an automotive passion. It's difficult to justify what we do. But however, we are content creators, so we've figured out a way to make it a job, which is pretty rad. And I know you feel as much gratitude as I do for where we stand right now. Thank you so much for taking the time to run around the shop, make videos, toss them back and forth with me. And you gave me a lesson on engines today too, which is pretty rad. I really appreciate that as well. You're awesome, bud. I'll see you later.
Emily, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the time. Always good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you. Appreciate Pete for having me too. And I will talk to you guys again next time. Bye-bye.
I hope y'all enjoyed that as much as I did. I love Charles. He cracks me up. His car obsession is quite relatable. We are all over the place though. He's mostly into VWs. Wow, that is a dirty toolbox. And we're just all over the place, but I love learning about new engines and really door. Yes, I love learning about new engines, and Charles is, just an infectious, happy person, and I love that. So good stuff. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing the comments, and also drop whoever you would like to see on an upcoming episode, and I will reach out to them and make it happen for you. We look forward to seeing y'all again soon.